Hello to everyone returning. Welcome back. To those of you who are new, welcome. Okay, I'm definitely not gonna try a new game because last week I struggled. I apologize to the person who wrote in chat. Really sorry I didn't see it until the end of the stream. I am trying to do better. As you can see, I'm a newbie at streaming, so I am going to do my best to keep an eye on the chat today. And yeah, if there's any questions, as always, they are welcome. Yeah, and that's an added kudos to all the raid leaders who have led raids when I was playing World of Warcraft. It's so hard to focus on the game as well as talking, and I can't imagine, I've tried raid leading a few times and it's been a total disaster because I just couldn't focus on everyone else's gameplay as well as my own, or I just didn't invest enough time to learn the game so well myself that I didn't need to even think about it, just do it automatically. So yeah, that's another thing with me, right? So you'll see me streaming different games, mostly just like the easy, brainless ones like TFT or Hearthstone or whatever, just so I can focus more on talking. But if there's any requests to see me play anything, I'm down. Like I play a lot of stuff like Overwatch or League of Legends or some stuff on Steam like Ori or Crazy Taxi, which brings me to nostalgia, right? So I grew up playing the old NES games like Super Mario and Tank and Bomberman and whatever that was called with like the little ship shooting the stars. Like literally there was one cassette on NES that had all of these games, and I spent so much time playing that stuff. And Duck Hunts, like I can't forget Duck Hunt. So I have a big nostalgia boner for all of these old games, right? So every now and again I go back to playing Just Jackrabbit or Crazy Taxi or even like Super Mario on on browser, just for the sheer feeling of it. Obviously it's not the same anymore. Oh, I recently installed Pinball, the old Pinball. Absolutely amazing. um, but yeah, I'm not gonna rant anymore about video games, unless you guys want me to, but let me know. Today I wanted to talk about the issues we see reflected in others, right? So, as if you've watched so far, you know what I'm doing here. I'm just talking through the stuff I struggled with, lots of like mental health stuff, for more than 10 years, to get to the point where I'm at today. And I hope that sharing all of these things that I struggled with will help you as the watchers or whoever you share this with, just by simply knowing that you're not alone and that other people are out there struggling just as you are, and that actually some of us have succeeded and have got over all these dark things that we struggle with, right? So there's a light at the end of the tunnel, so hang tight and use your resources, right? So sharing my journey with seeing my own issues in others. This was something very, very hard for me to admit to myself, first of all, as a gamer, as a woman, as a person. and it's still hard to talk about, as you can see. I am very much struggling, still struggling with this one, right? So there aren't that many females in games to begin with, right? And the ones that are in that environment either struggle with the toxic environment, or they become toxic themselves, or they just keep to themselves and don't get involved in the community. But I'll talk purely about the ones who were involved in the community, at least where I was playing, right, on like the World of Warcraft private servers and all the games that I've played. So all the girls I encountered, well, exaggerating here, right? It's not all of them, and this is something else I'm working on in therapy. So it's called oof, I forget the name of it, but basically it's the way you formulate your thoughts and the way you formulate your like words and the way you express things, right? So you shouldn't generalize. Or speak in extremes, or catastrophize, that kind of thing. So many of the girls I played with were struggling with certain toxic traits and behaviors, right? And I thought for the longest time that I didn't like them because, oh my god, she's so toxic. Oh my god, you know, she's such an attention-seeking person. But something that I had to admit to myself, and it was very hard admitting this to myself, and I think a lot of us struggle with this, right? Was the fact that I was seeing them. So I was in there doing the same things as they were. It's not like I was better than them in any way, but I was feeling so insecure that I didn't like the competition, right? So I liked the attention I was getting, and I enjoyed, you know, I spoke last week about unloading your issues on other people, right, on global chat and whatnot. And the fact that they were there meant that I had competition. I didn't have an easy life, an easy, you know, path to doing this. And yeah, we clashed a lot of times, and I don't know, I tried to not be toxic towards them as much as I could, but when they were being toxic towards me, obviously I would take it very personally, and I did a lot of like server hopping and such because of these things. Yeah. Cool. That was tough to admit, but I'm happy I got it out there, and hopefully, if you guys are also seeing these things or struggling with them, you'll be able to identify them and hopefully correct them. Right. And the first step to addressing any mental health issue, any of these struggles, is to recognize it, right? To admit that this is actually what's happening. And until we admit what's happening, we can't really do much about it, right? Because we don't want to look at it. We don't want to admit to ourselves and to others around us that we are not the good people we think we are. And that's tough, right? That's tough to think about. That's tough to recognize. That's not a fun place to be. And this was not the only example of this behavior coming to light. It wasn't just me recognizing my own toxic traits in other girls that were gaming. that I encounter. It was also in my relationships with my real life friends. So I don't know if I mentioned it before, but for the longest time I was heavily overweight. So when I was in ninth grade, I was 85 kilograms. Right now I'm 69. But I was bullied a lot, and I was very insecure and self-conscious about it. So I struggled a lot with my self-image and my weight, and my teenage years were not a very fun time for me. First of all, because of the bullying, but mostly because of my own insecurities and self-image. And I talked a bit about self-fulfilling prophecies, right? I was constantly thinking like, oh, I'm fat, I'm ugly, nobody likes me because of this. So I was acting based on that thought. And because of how I was acting, people were reacting to my behavior. And it was like a cycle that was perpetuating itself. But I lost a lot of weight. At my thinnest, I was around 60 kilograms. And recently I've put on like 9, which I'm struggling with. I'm still struggling to accept it. And I'm still working to shed it. I have my stepper here. My desk is one that lifts up so I can stand while playing, so I can get a bit of movement since I'm indoors a lot of the time. And oof, I'm gonna lose this game. But yeah. Because I struggled with my weight for such a long time, I kept picking on it in others as well. So whenever I would see someone who is overweight, I would be like, ooh, that person needs to lose weight. And it didn't come from a place of like the other issue, right? I didn't see this one as, oh, I need to bring them down because I'm also suffering with this one. It was more like, I know how tough it is for them because I've been in their shoes. So I want to help because I've done it. So they must be able to as well. And it wasn't well received, obviously, for obvious reasons, right? So nobody likes it when you go to them and say, hey, let's lose weight together. Hey, no matter how good your intentions. And I wouldn't understand why, for the longest time until I realized this, I didn't understand why I kept picking up on it, right? So I have an overweight friend, and it just keeps nagging at me every single time I see him, right? Like, man, you need to lose weight. And I know it's coming from a place of concern for the person, right? So you don't want to see your friends struggling, you don't want to see people suffering, and you know for sure that this added weight is bringing them discomfort. Like, they can't do strenuous physical activities, you can't do all the things like outdoors activities you want to together. It might be preventing them from getting a good relationship, like romantic relationship, and they struggle, and you having to watch them struggle and being unable to help is not a fun place to be either, right? Whether you're the person struggling with the weight or whether you're the one watching your friends struggling with the weight, it's not a fun time for anyone. But also nagging them to lose weight or nagging them about their weight or picking on it all the time is counterproductive. It's not only not helpful, it's harmful. Because that person obviously is struggling with something, whether it be emotional, whether it be physical. It's not like they choose to be this, right? It's not like someone wakes up one day and says, hey, I want to be, obese or fat or whatever, and I'm gonna be amazing about it, regardless of the impact it has on my health, right? It happens because some people are emotional eaters, some people eat when they're stressed. Whatever the reason, some people have legitimate health issues that they struggle with. Doesn't matter. So I couldn't understand why in myself, right? I kept picking on this person again and again and again, and I am so very sorry, right? I didn't mean to make their life miserable or make them feel bad. I was only trying to help. But the only way you can help someone is if they want to be helped. You cannot help someone. You cannot force help someone, right? So I talked to my therapist about this as well. It's an issue, right? So I used an example of someone who is in an abusive or toxic situation, right? So they're in an abusive or toxic situation. What do? Do you just stand by and watch them suffer because of this person who keeps abusing them? I am personally someone who cannot do that. So I have this ridiculous moral compass that if I see someone suffering, I'm like, I have to do something about it. And obviously, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you try to help someone who doesn't want to be helped, they will most likely end up blaming you, which has happened to me a few times. Right, so my therapist also told me that there are many cases where women are in abusive, or men as well, women is more common, they're in abusive relationships, physically abusive, emotionally abusive. But if you go in and try to pull them out, you might end up taking the fall for it, right? So she told me there are situations in which people intervene, right? So one partner is getting beaten almost to death, and someone calls the police, and the victim ends up changing their statement or retracting their statement and being resentful towards the person who called the police. So until that person who is in the abusive situation actually reaches out and wants help, you cannot help them. No matter how many good intentions you have, no matter how bad their situation is. And that's a tough thing, tough pill for us to swallow who want to help, right? But it's something I had to learn the hard way. And it's something I'm still struggling with. And I'm still struggling with it because I see people suffering all the time, right? And this is something I'm gonna get into in a second. I see my friends struggling with different things. I see, my mom struggling with different things. And I want to help. But if they don't want to help, there's not much you can do. The best thing you can do is, first of all, educate. So when a person is in a bad situation, if they don't realize they're in a bad situation, they won't want to get out. That's the first thing. If they're in a bad situation and they want to get out, but they don't know how, then it's a good opportunity to get informed. One thing to avoid, though, and again, I've learned this the very, very hard way, is giving unsolicited advice. So when someone comes to us with an issue, right? So they're struggling with something and they're venting and they're unloading and, you know, oh, this is so bad, you know, I'm struggling with this thing and whatever it may be. Our knee-jerk reaction is to go, hey, you know what? I see these simple solutions. You need to do X, Y, and Z. And that's what most people do, without realizing that that person may actually not want your advice. And that's a tough pill to swallow. Again, they may want someone to listen to their issues. They may want someone to, you know, just a friend to lend an ear. I don't know, right? And probably you don't know either. So the best thing you can do in this situation is a simple thing. Just ask them, what do you need me to do in this situation, right? That's so important. You cannot help someone by force. And you don't know what someone needs, right? They know what they need. Maybe they don't. But at least ask, right? If, like, for example, if I came to you and I said, you know, I have this amazing soup and you need to eat it because I know it's the solution to all your problems, and you're like, well, you're crazy, you know, I don't like soup, I don't want soup. And I'm like, no, you have to eat it. And you're like, no, it's gonna hurt me. And, you know, it's this whole back and forth. Maybe what you need is not soup. Maybe you just wanted to vent. But I need to ask you, right? Do you want to try this? Or what is it that I can do for you in this situation, right? You're struggling. What can I do for you? Do you need me to just listen? Do you need me to ask questions? Do you want to talk about it? Right? Ask the question. It's as simple, but many of us just go to our knee-jerk reaction place and just be like, oh yeah, I know better than you what you need to do. Just do this and you'll be fine. We forget that when we're in those situations where we're struggling and somebody offers us unsolicited advice, we go like, I didn't ask you, you know? Just go away with your advice. I do that as well many times, right? Because I had to train all my friends, and train is an interesting word to be using here. But I had to make sure my friends understand that when I'm complaining about something, or for example with my partner, right? So I have this tendency of acting angry, and I call it angy to differentiate it from actually me getting angry, right? So it's just a play way for me to kind of unload some of the feelings, but not actually reach that state of anger, right? So I get just mock frustrated and I pout and I'm acting all like, I'm upset. just to vent some things. And it took a while for my partner to learn that that's actually me playing around and I'm not being serious. But you see, if you came in and you saw me acting like that, you'd be like, oh, she's angry, she needs, you know, to be reasoned with. I really hope none of you actually look at someone who's angry and think, ooh, this person needs to be reasoned with. Because people who are angry usually do not want to be reasoned with. They're like, this is another thing that I learned the hard way. When dealing with someone who is acting from an emotional place, usually it's best not to try to reason with them. It's first of all necessary to calm down their emotional state, to bring it to a more neutral state, and then do the reasoning, right? So that's why most political arguments, right? So you get into an argument with your family or with someone on the internet about politics, and both of the if you just step back from it, right, and you watch some of these arguments online for whatever reason, you just go onto a forum, you go onto Reddit, you go onto whatever, and you just watch these people arguing. You'll see both sides getting triggered, right? And they're getting angry at each other and they're jumping at each other's throats, right? That's not debate anymore. That's not intellectual debate. That's just two emotional, angry beings yapping at each other and trying to verbally hurt each other because they're both so frustrated and angry. And that's what we do as well most of the time, right? So we don't learn from this. We don't look at these people and say, you know what? That's a good point. I shouldn't get emotionally invested in these arguments. I should sit back and be calm and collected and deal with this in a calm and collected fashion. No, we get right in there with them. And this is another thing that I had to teach my partner and my friends and everyone. Just, if I am really like triggered, emotionally triggered, right? Do not argue with me. Do not get in there emotionally and argue with me, because we will not get anywhere. We'll both end up angry and yelling at each other, and it's not gonna be good for either of us. That's why whenever my partner gets angry, or whenever my friends get angry, I try to stay calm, and I try to step back from the situation, and I try to get them to first of all calm down from that state. And the worst thing you can do when someone is triggered is to tell them to calm down. So you don't get someone to calm down by telling them to calm down. I know this is such a silly thing to have to say, but my friends are all like this, right? So if I get a bit fiery, or if I start being excited about something, you're like, whoa, calm down. And I'm like, you really don't know the first thing about human nature. You have to, first of all, be empathetic and understanding with the person, right? Ask them, hey, why are you feeling so strongly about this? Hey, let's talk about this from a different angle, or have you thought about this from another angle, or let's go for a walk and talk about this while doing a physical activity, or just to get out of that mental state. But try not to tell them to calm down, because that's just going to inflame things and it's just going to make things worse. Right, so where was I? I don't know where I started this, but I'm glad I got to talk about this today. So helping people who don't want to be helped, and triggered people are part of the people who don't want to be helped. They want to project an idea. They want to tell you about something. They want to express something. They don't want your advice. They want your help, right? I feel very strongly about a lot of causes. And one of the causes I feel strongly about is poverty and the system that has created poverty, the system that allows certain people to hoard wealth while others suffer. And this is one of those things, right, that I have to watch happen and I can't do too much about. I don't want to be one of those people that is preaching without offering a solution, because we have enough of those people. I want to find a way to help, and I am doing my absolute best, right? So I started from the absolute bottom. When I got to London, I started, I was in university, but my work started from like catering, call center, but I pivoted into HR and then HR systems, and now this year it's actually something very important to me. It's very emotional. This year is the first year since I have known myself that I have earned 6 figures. So my compensation statement came, and there were 6 figures on it, which is absolutely amazing, right? So when I was back in Romania, I wasn't poor per se. We had our period in my life where we didn't really have much, so we were what's considered poor. But most of my life we had enough. We had food, we had a home, we had enough, right? And that's what matters, right? But by the time I was in university, so in my second and third year of university, I kind of had to support myself, and I had a friend supporting me because my mother had given everything she had to send me to university, to pay my rent, which was ridiculous for the money we had, and it was a very tough time. So this, after all of that, right, after starting from the absolute bottom, having to rely on a friend to pay my rent, and having to do, all those shifts in catering, staffing different events, like 12-hour shifts on my feet, carrying trays of beer and champagne for some snobs who were looking down at me, and seeing 6 figures on my compensation statements. I don't know, I'm so grateful and so thankful. I didn't think that I would make it to this level before I was 30, but here I am, which I'm so super thankful for. But I still see myself as that person who just left Romania and who is part of the lower class. I still, with every fiber of my being, fight for an equal play field, right? So in my workplace, I sent a letter to the CEO and the CHRO and the diversity team. The CEO and the CHRO have answered, but the diversity team hasn't. So much for that. In the letter, I detailed my journey from, you know, a developing country coming to a Western country. And at each step, you know, I was a hard worker. I did my absolute best every single time in every single job. But I still felt like luck played a big part in how my journey, like the turns that my journey took through my career. And at the end of the letter that I sent to them, I had a plea that one day, you know, the people who have power to make these decisions will decide to level the playfield, right? So there's the CEO that I really admire. He is an absolute legend. His name is Dan Price. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's from the US, he has made the decision to pay his workers $70,000 a year, regardless of where they were and who they were, and his business boomed and grew because he invested in his people. And that's exactly what I wrote in my letter to the CEO and to the CHRO, right? I wrote to them saying that when they are faced with decisions that impact their staff, I hope they will follow Dan Price and level the field for people. Because, you know, we might be earning the same money, but when I have to send money back home to my mom and when I have to pay rent, it's not the same. Right? It's not the same money as to someone who owns their house and doesn't have anyone to support. And I'm getting to leadership position. Like I'm fast-tracked for leadership positions now because of how well I've done in my job. And I will absolutely continue to fight this fight, right? I'll continue to share my story with people. I'll hopefully, you know, by being in a leadership position, I will have a better forum to do this. But, you know, people struggling, you know, whether it be with mental health, whether it be economically, whether it be in any way, I feel for them. I've been them, and I want to do something about it because when I was there, nobody did jack shit, and it was really bad. Right? When it's not fun when you need a hand and nobody's there to lend you one. That's another issue near and dear to my heart. I hope I didn't bore you guys with the rant. Yeah, I've received this question quite a few times, and I'm just gonna answer it before anyone asks it in chat and before I don't see it again. So people usually ask how I'm doing. I'm doing great, to be honest, right? I'm happy, I'm healthy, you know, my mom is healthy. I'm doing fine. Tomorrow I'm gonna be going to the office, so it's the first time since February 2020 that I'm heading back to the office. It's gonna be a journey. I'm going purely because the delegation from US are coming over and I want to meet them, and yeah, since I have the opportunity, why not? I'm gonna stay safe, obviously wear my mask, do my best to not catch anything. I'm one of the people who actually hasn't yet got COVID. and I have to be very honest, I am scared. I do not want to catch this thing. So yeah, I haven't taken trains. I've taken planes because I've had to go back to Romania, but I haven't got on a train since. I haven't really stayed indoors with people since. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm really, really hoping that you're alright too, and that we're all doing well, and that, you know, just this madness in Ukraine is gonna go away soon, and I'm really hoping that you will get the support you need, you know, whether it be coming here to listen, maybe you can share something, but also just looking for all the resources you can get. I was watching Cinema Sims earlier, and they were advertising this service. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called BetterHelp. I don't know if anyone's tried it. I'd be happy to hear any reviews or anything you may have about this service, because I've seen ads about it, but I haven't actually tried it myself. Yeah, I really hope you get all the resources you need to be able to get away or get out of any struggles or anything you may be struggling with. That's, as usual, this is very taxing for me, just talking and opening up about these things, because they're things that obviously, you know, just taking all the crap you have done and are not proud of and just putting it out there into the world is not easy. And yeah, I have, since I started doing this, I have a lot of respect for all the streamers, you know, who are doing it every single day. I don't think I could. I'm a real introvert. I don't think I could be doing this every single day. So kudos to them. I really, really wish you guys all the healing and all the success and everything you wish for. I hope it comes true. Hang in there. As I said, I've been struggling with these things for the better part of 10 years. And I'm here being successful, being healthy, being happy. And I know you can do it too. And I'm here for you. And whatever you may need, just drop me a note. You know, my handle is the same as on Twitch. It's SkyHigh8422 everywhere: Discord, Twitch, Steam, Blizz, Reddit, whatever. Drop a message, and yeah, wishing you all the best.